told me not to embarrass him at the luxury estate dinner, but everyone there was waiting to meet me, and the irony of that warning would not hit him until much later, when the truth about who I really was finally stepped out of the shadows he always assumed I lived in. My name is Alina, and for most of my relationship with Daniel, he treated me like a beautiful accessory, something delicate to display, something to keep quiet so I would not interrupt the shine of his own ambition. But that night, the night he warned me like a misbehaving child, I decided I would no longer shrink myself to make room for his ego. The invitation had arrived earlier that morning, a thick envelope embossed with gold detailing, marked with the seal of the Whitford estate, one of the oldest family estates in the country. Daniel practically glowed when he read it, his eyes sparkling as if he had received a royal summons. "This is the biggest opportunity of my career," he said. "These are legacy people, old money, serious investors. Don't talk too much, okay? And don't bring up your creative things. They won't understand." I knew what creative things meant. My art, my exhibitions, my foundation, the charity work he pretended didn't exist. He liked to call it a hobby, even though it reached more people than his investment firm ever had. But love makes us blind, and pride makes us quiet, so I simply nodded. But that night at the estate, everything changed. The Whitford estate was breathtaking, a palace of glass and stone with fountains that danced under warm lights and gardens that looked like the petals themselves had been painted. Daniel squeezed my hand as we approached the entrance, whispering, "Just smile and stay by my side. Please don't embarrass me tonight." I should have walked away right then. Instead, I smiled. We entered the grand hall, and it was filled with voices like soft music, expensive fabrics whispering as people turned, laughed, and floated from conversation to conversation. But something strange happened when we crossed the room. People began turning toward us. No, toward me. A woman in a silver gown gasped. A man near the marble staircase whispered something and nudged his companion. Another man's eyes widened, and suddenly excitement rippled through the crowd like an invisible wave. Daniel didn't notice. His ego made him blind to anything that wasn't about him. "Let me introduce you to Mr. Whitford," he said, pulling me forward. But before he could take another step, a tall, elegant woman with diamond earrings approached us, her smile warm and knowing. "Alina," she said, almost breathless. "It's truly you." Daniel blinked in confusion. Yes, this is my girlfriend Alina." The woman barely acknowledged him. Instead she reached for my hands. "This is an honor. The estate has been preparing all day. Everyone here has been hoping you would attend." Daniel stared at her as if she had spoken in another language. "Preparing? For her?" The woman laughed gently. "Of course. Your girlfriend's foundation rebuilt half the community center we sponsor. And her last art series, my husband bid $3 million on one of the pieces at auction." Daniel's mouth fell open. I kept my expression soft, polite. "Thank you," I said. "Your support changed many lives." More guests approached, one, then three, then a small crowd. Their faces held admiration, recognition, gratitude. "Your murals in the refugee housing program saved my nephew," a man said, his voice full of emotion. "Your education project in the rural schools, my daughter is one of your scholarship students," said a woman in an emerald dress. "I invested in your virtual arts platform," another added. "It's genius. You've changed the industry." Daniel slowly shrank beside me, his confidence peeling away like old paint. His face flushed, his posture stiff, his hand nervously tugging at his cufflink. He finally whispered to me, "What's happening? Why do they know you?" I looked at him and felt a quiet sadness, not anger, not revenge, just truth settling in place. "Because," I said softly, "you never asked." A hush fell across the room as an older man approached. The famous, the intimidating, the untouchably wealthy Arthur Whitford himself. Everyone parted for him like a tide. Daniel straightened like a soldier. "Mr. Whitford, sir," but the man walked right past him. He stood before me with a deep, respectful bow of his head. "Miss Alina, you honor my home." Daniel's eyes nearly fell out of his skull. "You know her?" Whitford looked at Daniel as if he were a misplaced lamp. "Know her, young man, her organization saved the life of my granddaughter. She couldn't walk after the accident. The therapy program your girlfriend built gave her legs back." The room was silent. Daniel swayed. Whitford continued, "We invited you tonight because we hoped to discuss a collaboration. Your artistic therapy centers, we would like to sponsor 10 more. 10, even I felt the shock of that number. It would change thousands of lives." Before I could respond, Daniel finally burst, his insecurity boiling over. Why didn't you tell me any of this? His voice cracked. Some guests glanced at him with polite pity. I turned to him slowly. I did tell you, Daniel. Many times. You just never listened. His jaw clenched, his pride collapsing piece by piece. I told you not to embarrass me, he whispered. I inhaled softly. And yet, you did that all on your own. The rest of the night unfolded like a dream. I spoke with leaders, innovators, artists, philanthropists, people who cared deeply about humanity, creativity, healing. People who treated me as an equal, not an accessory. Daniel drifted in the background, growing smaller and smaller until he finally disappeared from the room entirely. I didn't chase him. I didn't need to. I had spent too long shrinking myself, lowering my voice, dimming my light to keep peace with a man who feared standing beside a woman who shone. After the event concluded and the music softened into a gentle lull, Whitford escorted me toward the garden balcony overlooking the glowing fountains. You know, many people hide behind success, he said. But you carry yours quietly. That's real power. I smiled. I never wanted it to become arrogance. Humility isn't silence, he said. Don't mistake one for the other. He was right. I had been silent too long. I returned inside to gather my things, and as I stepped through the main corridor, I saw Daniel standing alone by the sculpture hall, his tie loose, his expression dazed. Alina, he said, voice cracking. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I should have listened. I shouldn't have tried to control you. I looked at him for a long moment. For the first time, I didn't feel small next to him. I didn't feel guilty for being myself. Daniel, I said gently, you wanted someone to admire you, not stand beside you. His eyes shimmered with shame. Can we start over, please? My voice was steady. No, but I hope you learn from this. And I meant it. I walked out of the estate, the moonlight brushing my shoulders like a quiet crown. Outside, a car was waiting for me, the one Whitford insisted on sending. As we drove away, I watched the golden estate shrink into the distance behind me. For the first time in a long time, I felt the future expanding before me, wide and bright and mine. The next morning, the story of the estate dinner went viral online. Not because of drama, not because of humiliation, but because the Whitford Foundation released an official announcement. We are honored to partner with the visionary artist and humanitarian, Alina Carter, to open 10 new creative therapy centers nationwide. My name trended everywhere. Newspapers wanted interviews. Investors reached out. My inbox overflowed with messages from families, children, teachers, survivors. And Daniel, he sent an apology text. A long one. I replied with a single sentence. I wish you well. Months passed, and my centers bloomed, walls filled with colors painted by hands that had once trembled from trauma, voices rising in confidence, children laughing in spaces that finally felt safe. During the grand opening of the 10th center, Whitford himself stood beside me before the cameras. You changed my granddaughter's life, he said publicly. And now, you're changing the world. But for me, the most precious moment was when a little girl tugged at my dress and whispered, Miss Alina, one day I want to help people like you do. I knelt beside her and smiled. You already are. That night, as I walked home alone through the city lights, I finally understood something I had forgotten along the way. I had never been meant to stand behind anyone. I was meant to stand beside those who stood for something bigger than themselves. And the ones who were waiting to meet me. They were waiting not because of power or money or fame. They were waiting because they believed in the work, in the art, in the healing it offered the world. The irony of the night still makes me smile sometimes. He warned me not to embarrass him. But in the end, he embarrassed himself by not knowing the value of the woman standing right next to him. And I finally stepped into the place I belonged, not in someone's shadow, but in my own light.